Alright, it's 7:09. You hear the alarm? Right. Today is June 10th. Alright. Long distance. Here's how she told me. After that fish dinner, Henry went into the living room to watch TV and sleep on the sofa. Helen was still in the kitchen and cooking water for tea, and I was sitting in the dining room. Actually, it is not really a dining room, but part of the kitchen,
Chicken.
separated by a thin plastic screen. But because Helen could not see me, she was shouting as if she were calling long distance, bragging about her 宝宝 getting married in 3 weeks. 宝宝 this and 宝宝 that was what she was saying. She sounded just like those TV shows that brag. Win this, win that. Every week the same thing. Her son is 31 years old and she still calls him baby. But maybe Helen is right. Her 宝宝 is still a baby, so spoiled and impatient, he can't even wait for a bus. One time his car was broken down and caught me. So nice and polite. Oh, auntie, I haven't seen you for a long time. Oh, auntie, how is your health? Good, good. Oh, auntie, please let me borrow your car for an important job interview. When he returned my car 3 days later, I saw his character scattered inside out. A bump on my bumper, Coca-Cola cans on the floor, no gas, and he didn't even get that job. So, I was listening to Helen praising 宝宝. I was remembering how mad I was about my car. And because I had never complained, remembering made me mad all over again. I was thinking, my son, he isn't like that. Samuel does not say polite words as an excuse to borrow something, and he doesn't have to borrow Helen's car to go for an interview. He already has a job in New Jersey, a senior benefits administrator, analyzing sick leave, sick pay, who is really sick, who is only fooling around. Helen came in the room with our tea, still talking loud as if I were far away. Now she was talking about Mary. Did I tell you? Mary called me a few days ago, told me she and Doc are going to Hawaii. Again. This is already their fourth time, I said. You already saw it. You don't need to go again. And she said, nobody goes to Hawaii because they need to. You go because you don't need to. Helen gave me my tea. I told my daughter, what kind of thinking is this? I don't need to go to Hawaii. I don't go. I want to go to China. I also don't go. Helen laughed to herself. That daughter of mine, she said. Oh, did I tell you? She called me again, late last night, after 10. Helen waved her hands, so disgusted. Scared me to death almost. I said to her, what's wrong? Someone is sick? Car accident? Doc lost his job? And she said, no, no, no. I just wanted to call. Helen smiled. What do you think? Why did she call? Tell me. 大早上你的干嘛呢？
看那个回馈啊。
What do you think? Why did she call? Tell me. She's a good daughter, I said. Helen shook her head. This time, she said she was calling for no reason. No reason? This is not a reason to call. Helen poured me more tea. Of course, it wasn't her idea. Not entirely. She saw a TV commercial for a phone company, a daughter calling a mother for no reason. I said to my daughter, now you are calling long distance, no reason? Don't talk too long then, too expensive. And she said, it's okay. After 8 o'clock, it's cheaper. So I told her, don't be fooled. They say all kinds of lies on television. Maybe it's only cheaper if you talk faster. Who knows what their meaning is? She said, Oh, mommy, the cost doesn't matter. I said, What? Doesn't matter? How can you say cost doesn't matter? You want to waste $10? Don't give it to the phone company then. Send it to me instead. In my mind, I could hear Helen arguing with her daughter, wasting money to argue about not wasting money. Helen doesn't have any sense. Helen sighed. Finally, I convinced her, and she hung up. She looked at me, smiled real big, and went back to speaking Chinese. See, she still listens to me. She knows her mother is still right. She took a nosy sip of tea. She took a noisy sip of tea. So, have you heard from Peril this week? Does she call and waste long distance money too? When Helen asked me that, I knew she was not looking for an answer. She knows my daughter and I do not talk too often. Peril does not call me for no reason. Of course, she calls me to say she is bringing Tessa and Cleo for babysitting. She calls me to say, Can you bring the Chinese stuffing for Thanksgiving? And she calls to warn me. Last week, for example, she called me to say she and her family could not stay overnight at my house. Actually, she did not call me herself. Her husband called. But I knew she told me to call. But I knew she told him to call. I knew she was listening on the other line. Peril doesn't live long distance. I reminded Helen. San Jose is still long distance, she argued. 50 miles away, different area code. But she's not long distance, I said. Helen would not give up. Long distance enough. You still have to pay extra every minute. You still can't talk too much. Maybe we should not talk too much either, I said. Henry is asleep. And I pointed to her tired husband, lying on the sofa, his mouth wide open. Maybe I better go home. Henry, get up. Helen shouted and then pushed her husband's shoulder until one frowning eye popped open. Then 2 feet were pushing along the floor, moving slowly to his bed. After Henry left, Helen said to me, So now maybe I have some good news to tell you. She smiled. What kind of good news? She smiled again. She sipped her tea. She took a Kleenex out of her sleeve and wiped her nose. She sipped her tea again and smiled again. Why does she make everything like a Buddhist ceremony? Now you no longer have to hide, she said at last. I'm not hiding. I am here. No. All your life you have been hiding. Now you can come out. She jumped up and found her purse, a big bag, then dug her hand inside. I could tell she was in a big hurry to find something. She pulled out an orange and put that on the table. Then 2 bags of airline peanuts, restaurant toothpicks, her extra wallet for tricking robbers. She turned the purse sideways and spilled out all sorts of other junk in case a war breaks out and we have to run away like the old days. 2 short candles, her American naturalization papers in a plastic pouch, her Chinese passport from 40 years ago, 1 small motel soap, 1 washcloth, 1 pair each of knee-high stockings and knee-long panties, still brand new. And then she pulled out more things, her Po-Chow stomach pills, her potion for cough, her tiger bone pads for aches, her good-luck goddess of mercy charm if her other remedies do not work. Where is it? She said, sorting through everything over and over again, until she finally pulled out from a side pocket what she had been chasing for along the bottom of her purse. It was a letter, the kind that looks like a sheet of paper, but when you fold it, it becomes an envelope, stamp and everything already on it. She waved in her hand. It's in here, she said with a big proud look on her face. That man. And then I became alarmed for Helen. Lately she has been acting senile. Lately she has been forgetting many things. Lately, she does not make sense. Maybe it is because of that fall on her stairs 2 months ago, the one that now makes her think she's going to die. How can you put a man in an envelope? I asked her carefully. What? You said you put a man in an envelope? In an envelope? Ah, I didn't say this. I said my good news is in here. And my good news is this. That man is dead. Betty Wang from Hong Kong told me here in this letter. She went to Shanghai recently. You remember her? Beautiful Betty. We called her during wartime. Although maybe she's not so beautiful anymore. Helen laughed. Do you remember that sewing machine I gave her? She made a good business for herself later on. Now owns a clothing shop in Cologne. Lately, Helen's mind wanders everywhere, like a cow following grass wherever its mouth goes. It was a jewelry store she started. I reminded her. A store in Cologne, in the Ambassador Hotel arcade. Helen shook her head. A clothing shop, she said. Ladies' things, all discount. I did not argue. I did not tell her how she always remembers things wrong, always better than what really happened. She does not remember. I was the one who gave beautiful Betty the sewing machine. What man is dead? I finally asked, pointing to the letter. Oh, yes, that man. And then she sighed, pretended she was exasperated with me. That man, you know the one. How can you not guess? And then she leaned over and whispered, That Batman. My breath stopped. I could see him, that Batman, Wen Fu, my first husband, the one I told Helen to never mention. Never say his name, never tell anyone. I could see his thick hair, his tricky eyebrows, his smooth, lying face, his clever mouth. I had not seen him for over 40 years. And now, just to hear Helen mention his name, I could feel his breath on my neck, remember him laughing and telling me he had finally found me and dragged me back, no choice. Don't be scared, it's true, he's gone, he said, Helen. Read it yourself. I took the letter from her hands. I read it. I found out 40 years later and Wen Fu was still laughing in my face because the letter did not say he died 20, 30, 40 years ago. He died last month, on Christmas Day. I slapped the letter. Can you imagine? I said to Helen, even to the end, he found a way to make me miserable forever. Died on Christmas. What does it matter when he died? Said Helen. She was poking her mouth with a toothpick, raising one corner of her mouth so she looked as if she was smiling. He's dead. Can't come get you anymore. That's what matters. Already got me, I cried. Already in my mind. Now I will always be thinking of him on Christmas.
Why?
Why?
I mean, she
Her first husband treated her really badly.
I know. She should move on.
Easy to say lah.
Huh.
How can I sing Silent Night, joy to the world, when I want to shout and say, so glad he's dead, wrong thought, wrong day. Then you should sweep your floors, sweep him out of your mind, she said, throwing her hand out, as if it were so easy. And I knew she was talking about the Chinese New Year coming up soon, about that old saying, sweep away last year's dust and all bad feelings. What does Helen know about sweeping? If you looked at her kitchen floor, you would see dust balls as big as mice, black smudges polished smooth in every corner, 20 years worth, all the disappointments she thinks I can't see. That's what I was thinking, said Helen. We should sweep all the lies out of our life. Tell everyone our true situation, how we met. What are you saying? Why should I go to my grave with all those lies? that I'm your sister in law married to your half brother, a man I've never met, and my birth date is wrong. You made me 1 year younger. Now, when I die, my long life is cut short 1 year early. What kind of nonsense are you saying? I'm saying now that Wen Fu is dead. I want to correct everything before it's too late. No more secrets, no more lying. A bad feeling was moving in my stomach. Why was she talking this way? She wanted to expose everything, my past, my marriage to Wen Fu, everything I worked so hard to forget. How can you do that? I scolded her. You want to tell my secrets just like that? We made a promise never to tell. That was a long time ago, argued Helen. Of course, we couldn't say anything then. You were afraid. You thought Wen Fu would still chase you, and we both needed a way to get into this country. So it made sense back then. But now, this is a secret. What does it matter now? Wen Fu is dead, said Helen. He can't come get you. We can't be deported. It matters more to tell the truth, not to go to the next world with so many lies. How can I face my first husband in heaven when all these years I have been saying I was married to a brother? How can I have a tombstone that says I was born in 1919? Everyone will laugh at me behind my dead back, saying I was so old I could not even remember how old I really was. Then you tell everyone your things, just don't tell them about mine, I said. Helen frowned. How can I do that? Then I have to make up more lies. How we met, why I know you. You're asking me to talk to the devil. If you don't tell, I must, before the new year. You are asking me to bring disaster into my life. If you tell your children, then my children will know too. Then you should tell them yourself, said Helen. They are grown-ups now, not children anymore. They'll understand. Maybe they'll be happy to know something about their mother's background, hard life in China. That's very popular now. Nothing shameful in that. You don't know what shameful is, I said. We argued like that, back and forth, back and forth. But after a while, I knew it was useless. It was like her pom-pom fish and her long-distance money. Helen thinks she's always right. How could I argue with someone who makes no sense? I was shaking mad. When she went to put more water on for tea, I told her it was already too late. I picked up the groceries I had bought at Happy Super that afternoon, then put on my coat. Wait a little, Helen said. Henry can drive you. Safer that way. Every time I come to her house, she says that. Every time she says that, I know what she really means. 30 years ago, Jimmy and I moved out of Chinatown and bought our house on 8th Avenue between Geary and Anza. And for 2 years, Helen said to me, that part of town, not too safe. That part of town, oh, we could not move there. Then after Jimmy died, guess what? She and Henry bought a bigger house on 1 block from my place, on 9th, a higher number street. Now we can take care of you, she said. Safer that way. But I knew she was just using me as her excuse. Last night I said the same thing I always say. Don't bother. I can walk by myself. Good exercise. Too dangerous, she insisted. But I knew she already didn't mean it. She was whispering, so she would not wake up her husband. You should be more careful, she said. What? You think someone wants to rob me for my tangerines? For one can of bamboo shoots? She grabbed the plastic bag from my hand. Then I will help you carry this, she said. Too heavy for you. I grabbed back my bag. Don't do polite words with me. You are too old to carry it by yourself, she said, reaching again for my bag. You forget, you are too old too. 1 year older already. And finally she let me and my bag go. All night long I cleaned my house to forget. I shook my curtains, beat my sofa, dusted my tables and the rail going up my stairs. I wiped down the TV set, wiped out the picture frame on top, the glass, look at the picture underneath. Jimmy, always so young. Oh my God. I'm reading some middle-aged woman's real life. This is so damn intense. I went into my bedroom, changed the sheets on my bed, the same bed I shared with Jimmy, the curve of his body still sunk in. I went into Samuel's room. I dusted the plastic airplanes he made, Japanese and American bombers, the little soldiers running away on his desk. I opened his dresser and saw a Playboy magazine. Ah, it was like an old slap in my face, to my face. I once told Samuel to throw that magazine away. 1964, he said, the same year Jimmy died, when everyone stopped listening to me. Oh my god. This is crazy detail. She opened the drawer of her son and saw a Playboy magazine that was published in 1964, the year her husband died. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
I went into Paris' room. So many hurts and fights in this room. The Barbie doll I let her have, but no Ken. The perfume I wouldn't let her wear because it made her smell like cheap stuff. The curved dressing table with the round mirror and silver handles. The one I loved so much, but gave to my daughter instead. And when she saw it, she said she hated it. You picked this one just to torture me, she shouted. I was remembering this, dusting her table. That's when I saw tiny words carved into the top of the dressing table. I love RD. Who is RD? Who does my daughter love enough to ruin this furniture she hates so much? Is he American or Chinese? And then I became angry. Look what she did to my good furniture. Of course, after I calmed down, I realized Perro didn't do this recently. That was maybe 25 years ago. Because now Perro is over 40 years old. And she is no longer in love with RD. She is married to Phil Bratt. Not Chinese, but still a nice man. A doctor, although not the best kind. When Perro first introduced him to me, I tried to be nice. I said, "Oh, a doctor? I sent all my friends to be your patients." And then he told me what kind of doctor he was. A pathologist, someone who looks at people only when it's too late, after they've died. How could I send my friends to that kind of doctor? But Perro has a good job, a speech therapist for retarded children. Although she told me never to say that. A few years ago, she said, "We don't call them retarded or handicapped children anymore. We say children with disabilities. We put the children first, the disabilities second. And I don't do just speech therapy. I'm really what's called a speech and language clinician. And I work only with children who have moderate to severe communicative disorders. You should never call them retarded." I asked her to tell me what she did again, and she wrote it down. A speech and a language clinician for children with moderate to severe communicative disorders. I practiced saying this many, many times. I still have those words in my purse. I still can't say them. So now maybe Perro thinks I'm retarded too. Of course, Perro's two daughters have no problem speaking English. When the older one was only 2 years old, she ran up to me at the door, shouting, "Habu, Habu, Habu is there." How clever. I was thinking, she knows how to call her grandma in Shanghainese. And then my granddaughter said in English, "What presents did you bring me? What kind? How many? Where are they?" Isn't it amazing? Perro said, she already speaks in complete sentences. Most kids her age use only 2-word phrases. She's really smart. And I said, what good is it to have her be this kind of smart? You should teach her manners, not to ask too much, same way I taught you. My daughter gave me a smiling, frowning look. She said, "Oh, Ma," that's all she said. "Oh, Ma." No more argument. I was thinking about this while cleaning her room. That is how she is. That is how I am. Always careful to be polite. Always trying not to bump into each other. Just like strangers. And then my hand knocked into something underneath her bed. Those granddaughters, so messy when they play. I pulled it out. In my hands, I held a pink plastic box. It was locked. No way to open it without a key. My secret treasures, it said on top. Oh, I remembered. I gave Perro that box when she was 10 for her birthday. Back then, she had opened the box, looked inside. It's empty, she said. She looked up at me as if I should change this. Of course, now it is empty. Later, you can put things inside, I told her. Maybe she thought the box was too old-fashioned, just like the dresser. But to me, it was modern, something I thought she would like very much. What kind of things? She asked. Secrets, privacy, American junk. She said nothing, only stared at the lid. It showed a girl with a yellow ponytail, lying in bed, her feet on the wall, talking on the phone. We had lots of fights about that too, talking too much on the phone. But now I could see, where the ponytail had once been yellow, now it was black, and the box, once empty and holding on only her disappointment, now was so heavy, lots of things inside. Oh, I was excited to open the treasures of my young daughter's heart, all those things kept hidden from me for so many years. I looked in other drawers, searching for the key to the lock. No key. I looked underneath her bed. I found an old pair of Chinese slippers with a hole at each big toe. I decided to go downstairs, get a knife and cut the latch open. But before I could take even one step forward, my mind walked ahead of me. What was inside? What hurts and disappointments? And if I opened the box and saw a stranger, what then? What if this daughter inside the box was nothing like the one I had imagined I had raised? I was trying to decide what to do. Cut the lock or not? Put the box back and open it later? And as I asked myself these questions, I smoothed my hair. My hand brushed against a booby pin, and it was like an instant answer. I took that booby pin and put it in the lock. Inside the box, I found two tiny lipsticks, one pink, one white. I saw some jewelry, a silver necklace with a cross, a ring with a fake ruby on one side and a bubble gum on the other. Underneath that, more junk, even terrible things. Tampons, which I warned her not to use. Blue eye makeup, which I also warned her not to use. And underneath, there were silly things. An announcement for something called Sadie Hawking Day's Dance. And letters from her friend Janet. I remember that girl, the one whose mother always let her go boy crazy. Peril fought me. Why can't I ask a boy to Sadie Hawkins? Jane's going. Jane's mother is letting her go. You want to follow a girl who has no sense? You want to listen to a mother? That mother doesn't even have concern for her own daughter. I was seeing all this again in front of me. I opened one of Janet's letters. What was this? Hey, ding dong, he's bonkers for you. Fake him out, make out. I was right. That girl made no sense. And then I saw something else. My breathing stopped. It was a small card with a picture of Jesus on one side. On the other side, it said, in loving memory, James Y. Louis. More words, the day he was born, April 14th, 1914. But then look, the date he died. It was covered with black marks, so many angry marks. I was happy and sad all at once, the way you feel when you listen to old songs you had almost forgotten, and you can only weep that each note is already gone the moment you hear it, before you can say, how true this was. Because right then I realized I was wrong. Right away I wanted to call Peril and tell her, now I know you were sad, you were crying, if not outside, then inside. You loved your daddy. And then I thought about Helen, what she said last night, how she would tell Peril all my secrets, my lies. 走了，拜拜。A kiss on camera。
拜拜。
你没吃馒头啊？
放包里了，我拿那两个馒头。
鸡蛋熟了？
不知道。
拜拜。
拜拜。
Now I know you were sad, you were crying. If not outside, then inside. You loved your daddy. And then I thought about Helen, what she said last night, how she would tell Peril all my secrets, my lies. And after that, why should my daughter believe me anymore? I took out my vacuum cleaner to catch all the dust I had thrown into the air by bringing out this worry. I went into my hallway and vacuumed the top of my carpet, the plastic runner, the sides where the carpet showed. I lifted the runner to clean the carpet underneath. I saw how carpet was still bright underneath, like gold-colored brocade. But on the sides, where the carpet showed, it was worn and dirty looking, and no matter how much I cleaned, it didn't matter. It would always look this way, just like this stain from my life. I could never get it out. I went downstairs and sat on my sofa, and when morning came, I was still sitting, still awake, holding that letter from beautiful Betty. I was thinking about all those times when Fu should have died, during the war, when so many pilots died all at once, when he crashed that jeep and killed someone else, when the communists took over and killed the Kuomintang, during this Cultural Revolution, all these other times when so many other people died, when he should have died, but did not die. And now this letter from beautiful Betty, telling Helen how he had died in bed, his whole family watching, his other wife and his children by that other wife, his brother and his brother's wife, his old pilot friends. In my mind, I could see them all, dropping tears on Wenfu's face, smoothing his hair, wrapping warm bricks to put at his feet, calming him, soothing him, calling to him, "Don't go, don't go." He died peacefully. The letter had said, died of a bad heart at age 78. I slapped that letter in two. It was his bad heart that kept him alive. And now I was the one left with a bad heart. I sat on my sofa, crying and shouting, wishing I had been at his deathbed, wishing he was still alive. Because if he were, I would lean over his bed and call his name. I would pry open his eyes and tell him, "Wenfu, now I have come back." And when he saw my heart through my eyes, I would round my lips and spit hard in his face. Look what he started by doing. Look what he started by dying. Dead, and he still comes back. And all the time. Helen is saying, what does it matter? What would she tell her children? How much would she tell them? Sure, I could tell my children first. I had another marriage to someone else. It was a very bad marriage. I made a mistake, but now that man is dead. I could tell them I had other children from that first marriage, but I lost them. So sad. But it was wartime. Long time ago. I could tell them. I pretended I was already married to a father so I could come to this country. I had to. The communists were taking over, and Helen lied for me. So later I had to lie for her too. And then I would see Perro's face, always suspicious. No, I would say, it is not as bad as you think. I really did marry your father, right after I arrived. And then I had both of you. You first in 1950, Samuel second in 1952, and we really would have lived happily ever after, just like in those stories, if only your father had not died. But even if I told it to them that way, Perra would know that's not all that happened. She would see it in my dark eyes, my still hands, my shaky voice. She would not say anything, but she would know everything, not the lies, but the truth. And then Perra would know the worst truth of all, what Helen does not know, what Jimmy didn't know, what I have tried to forget for 40 years. Wenfu, that bad man, he was Perra's father. What the fuck? What the fuck? I have tried to think how I could tell my daughter, but every time I begin, I can hear her voice, so much hurt. I knew it, you always loved Samuel more, so she would never believe me. But maybe if I told her, this is not true. I loved you the most, more than Samuel, more than all the children I had before you. I would tell her, I loved you in ways you never saw, and maybe you do not believe this, but I know this is true. Feel my heart, because you broke my heart the hardest, and maybe I broke yours the same way. I will call her. Long distance. Cost does cost 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 doesn't matter, I will say. I have to tell you something. Can't wait any longer. And then I will start to tell her not what happened, but why it happened, how it could not be any other way. Wow. Man, this story is crazy. It's crazy. It's so deep. It's generational. Traumatic. That pain, that grief, that would never go. Man, this book. Alright, I'm going to eat some breakfast and head out. Thanks for reading with me. It's 35 minutes. Oh my goodness.